Hi, welcome to Living Lean and Green with Stacy D. And I have a new recipe to share with you tonight for loaded cauliflower casserole. The idea for this recipe actually came from one of our Facebook followers. She sent a video of this recipe to me and asked if it was compliant on the 5-in-1 Optavia plan. As it was written, it was not. So I have rewritten it to be compliant, and I hope I'm able to get everything in to show you how to make this recipe. So we're going to start by, let me roll over this way. We're going to start with some uncured hardwood smoked turkey bacon. I have a cast iron skillet here. I'm starting with the skillet cold, just like you would cook any other kind of bacon. And I'm going to put 5 slices in here. And actually I'm going to go ahead and put in 6 because I want to end up with 2.5 ounces cooked. And I've not used this particular brand before, so I'm going to just cook more than maybe what I need, which is fine, but I want to end up with 2.5 ounces of this once it's said and done. The loaded cauliflower casserole is a take on a loaded baked potato. And the way I'm preparing it today, it's going to be a complete lean and green meal with 6 servings. Or I'm sorry, a complete lean and green meal with 3 servings. So I've got 4 slices in here right now, and actually I'm going to make this a little easier on myself. I'm actually going to tear these a little bit so that they're already in bacon bits, and then they'll be easier to measure too. Well, I'm going to end up with 2.5 ounces. And I'm just going to go ahead and do all 5 of these slices in here. Just tear them up so they'll be crumbled up, and I want to crumble them up later when they're hot. So go ahead and start those cooking in the skillet, and I already have my oven preheated to 350. So I'm gonna put these out of my way here, put back in the refrigerator in a bit, and get a spoon so we can stir those around as needed. Alright, so I got those cooking. The next thing I'm going to do is prep some cauliflower. Okay, you guys can still see well. My husband took a medium-sized head of cauliflower, rinsed it, broke it up in florets for me. I have a pan of water here that I'm going to go ahead and turn on high. I have about an inch of water, half an inch to an inch of water in the back of this. You don't need to cover all of your vegetables when you steam it. You just need a little bit in the bottom of the pan. And I'm going to head and put all of this in. Some of these bigger florets I might break up just a little bit more, so these are more along all the same size. And when this is all steamed, we're going to measure, see how much we have, because we're going to need 4 cups of it. And then we can save the rest to use for something else. And we'll put the lid on this so it comes to temperature faster. Set this bag over here. Okay, so I've got the bacon cooking, and got the broccoli started to steam. So while that's happening, we're going to prep a few of our other ingredients. And the reason this is uncured turkey bacon is so that it doesn't have the nitrates and sodium content as regular bacon. Now, I have not asked nutrition support if this is compliant, but I have been using uncured chicken and uncured turkey bacon all through my 5-in-1, and it has worked really well for me. It's not something we eat every day or every week, but it's definitely something that we have used a few times, and it's not slowed down our weight loss one bit. So while that's cooking, I'm going to also prep some green onions. I have 3 stalks over here. Let me grab one more. And to prep my green onions, all you do is rinse off the outer edge, the outside of it, cut off the root tip, cut off the very end of the greens, and we're going to go ahead and slice these up. We're going to need 1/2 cup, and I'm going to slice them pretty thin, and I'm slicing them on the diagonal just because I like the way that looks. So I got the big knife here, just holding them all next to each other, keeping my fingertips out of the way. And you slice all the way up through the green. So 1/2 cup of the green onions equals 1 green on the Optavia 5-in-1 plan, so that's what I want to end up with. And I'm going to save very greenest parts of the top, so the very last part of it, sprinkle on top of the casserole, not actually go in it. The rest are going to be stirred in to the casserole, but I'm going to save the very tops to sprinkle on top to make it pretty. Alright, so scoop these up, see how much we have here. We're going to have a little over half a cup. So we'll pile these green ones on top because that's going to be the top of my casserole. Set those just over here by themselves. So I've got a few extra maybe. Well, let's pile them down in there. Squish them down in there, making sure we're getting our full half cup here. Alright. So these little extra pieces I'll just put aside for something else down the road. Alright, so half cup sliced green onions. We're also going to put in 1 clove of garlic as a condiment. And I'm going to just prep it by cutting off the root end and peeling it. When I go to put it in my casserole, I'm actually going to use my microplane to put it in there because it'll make it very, very fine and more evenly distributed. There's a little dark spot there, so I'm going to just cut that. Whoop, goes all the way through, doesn't it? Let's see if I can get that out without losing all of my garlic clove. There we go. Alright, throw this over in the garbage disposal. So that's going to be ready to go in. Let's check our bacon. Sizzling over here, starting to smell good. Cauliflower water is just starting to boil, so that's just starting to steam. You don't want to overcook this cauliflower because it is going to go in the oven, and we want it to resemble like chunked up potatoes, so you don't want it really mushy. Bacon's starting to crisp up here, and I love that smoky taste and smell that it's going to give to this dish. So let's get a fork and test the doneness of this cauliflower, see if it's where we want it to be yet. It's the easiest way for me to tell when I'm doing cauliflower potatoes if they're done. Not, some of the bottom ones feel a little softer, so I'm going to give it a little bit of stir so the rest of them can kind of get done in there. I don't know if you can see the color, but see how some of them are still really, really white and the others are kind of yellow. They're not quite steamed all the way through yet. So we're going to go ahead and give them another minute. I hope everybody can see well enough. Let's get a little zoom in here of the bacon cooking and the cauliflower. Okay, it's starting to look a little bit better. I'm going to give it another little shake so some of those other ones can get down there and get steamed so they're not white and raw. Okay? Lovely camera action here. Stir. And there's no fat coming off of this turkey bacon. It's a nice lean piece of smoked turkey. Let's check this cauliflower again. Good. Everything looks like it's, whoops, drop a piece of the skillet there. It looks like it's steamed through. I'm going to take the lid off, turn the heat off. This lid over here, and I've got a colander here in the kitchen sink that I'm going to drain this into. Turn that way so you can see. I'm losing a little bit of it here. It's fine. Just going to drop that back in here so it's easier to transfer. Get my extra pieces. So that was one head, pretty large head, of cauliflower florets. And like I said, we're going to need 4 cups of these. I've got my big Pyrex dish here. Alright, so about halfway full, so I've got 4 cups. So let's get this thing, burn my fingers. Just start piling those in. Oh, I bumped my oven and turned it off, so let's get that back going. And I've got my convection on 350, so it'll bake a little faster for me. If I see some bigger ones, I'm going to break those up again. There's one, it's a little to all be pretty even pieces. So this is going to cook a little bit more once it's in the casserole. So that's why it's not mushy, still just a little bit crunchy. And also, I think I'll turn my bacon up here. It's getting cooked all the way through. Go ahead and take these out and tear them up as I'm putting them in until I get my 4 cups. Wasn't exactly sure how much I would end up with this one head, so that's why I'm doing it this way. You could also buy frozen cauliflower florets and measure it out that way. The only thing I'm worried about doing that is if it would get a lot mushier. It seems like the cooked or the frozen vegetables, when they're cooked, they get a lot mushier whenever you pre-cook them like this. If I was going to use frozen cauliflower, I would probably just run cold water on it to thaw it out and not actually steam it in water, because that would keep it from getting this mushy. I don't want this to be a mush casserole. I want it to have some crunch and texture to it. All right, we're almost there. All right, so we had probably, once it would all be measured out, probably about 5 cups once it's all measured out. But we've got 4 cups in here. That's what we need. Now I'm going to take this rest of this, and I'll just toss it over here with these leftover green onions, because I'm going to use this to stir things together. Alright, so we got our cauliflower. And then to this cauliflower, oh goodness, you just missed all that. I apologize. So I've got 4 cups of the cauliflower florets. I apologize for that. This is what happens when you're your own cameraman. All right, so to that I'm going to add the green onions. I have, excuse me, 2 different kinds of cheeses here. The original recipe called for cheddar and Monterey Jack. Could not find low-fat Monterey Jack, but the reduced fat Mexican cheese blend has Monterey Jack in it. So I have 1 cup of that, 1 cup of reduced fat sharp cheddar. And instead of adding the cream and sour cream, I'm adding 3/4 cup of 1% cottage cheese to give a little bit of liquidness to this, like the consistency of the cream and sour cream, and 3 tablespoons of skim milk, and 4 ounces of reduced fat or 1/3 fat cottage cheese. Okay, got those together. Then I'm going to take this clove of bacon with my microplane, and I'm going to just grate it into there. It's going to make a very, very fine grating so it mixes in well, and going to give this casserole tons of garlic flavor. If you don't like garlic, then substitute some other seasoning in here. Salt, pepper, paprika, whatever you like. Just make sure it's the equivalent of 1 condiment, because that's how this 1 clove of garlic is being counted. I know I have some clients who don't care for garlic, so feel free to substitute, whatever else you might like. Well, I dropped that piece in there, and oh, there it is. I couldn't see where it went. But I like using a grater like this when I'm doing any kind of aromatics, ginger or garlic especially, because it makes it really fine and distributes that easily, so someone doesn't bite into your dish and get a big huge chunk of garlic or ginger, which can be super spicy. All right, then the last thing we're adding is the bacon. I've got my food scales here, and we're going to make sure we weigh out 2.5 ounces. So I've got it zeroed out here on this with this plate and paper towel. Just right at 2. Ooh, I think I'm going to be right on the money with the 5 slices. So depending on what bacon you use might determine what amount of strips you're going to use, but I have found that with most of them, a strip equals about 1/2 ounce. So that's how I came up with starting with 5 strips. We are money, right on the money. That's perfect. So just about every kind I've ever used, 1 strip is 1/2 ounce. I'm going to add that in. Get that delicious smoky flavor in there. This out of the way. And I better check and make sure you guys are seeing this. Okay, good. So then we're gonna just stir this together. Get everything coating, that cauliflower, break up this cream cheese. I did soften my cream cheese in the microwave a bit, so you wanna make sure it's room temperature or even warmer than that if you want, so it stirs in easier, gets distributed better without breaking up your cauliflower. And I'm doing it in the pot in which I steam the cauliflower, so the heat of that pot is helping kind of melt that cream cheese and cottage cheese a little bit to make it easier to stir together. So we get everything evenly distributed. I'm kind of folding it in. That means I'm lifting up the cauliflower and flipping it over rather than smashing it. And my cauliflower was a really good consistency. It's not breaking up as I'm stirring this. If it was softer, it would break up a lot as I was stirring this, and we'd end up with cauliflower mash instead of these chunks. Oops, lost a bit. We don't want to lose any cheese or bacon. It's the best part of the dish. And remember, I've saved a little bit of my green onion to sprinkle on top, just for looks at the end. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. It's totally up to you. Make sure I got everything broken up in here. All right, good. Let's get these out of the way. All right, so I have a 2-quart baking dish. I'm gonna give a quick just spray of cooking spray. And if you have an oval shaped 2-quart pan, I would recommend probably using that rather than this round shape. It will bake up faster for you. But my 2-quart casserole was already in the refrigerator with leftovers in it, so I'm using this. It's probably going to make it take a little bit longer to bake. But I've got my oven preheated to 350, and I'm going to put this in for 20 to 30 minutes. I want it to be bubbly. I want it to be brown. So that's what I'm going to look for when I check to see after 20 minutes how much longer it needs to bake. But I'm going to guess 20 to 30 minutes. And then the oval pan, it may take a little less time because it'll be a little more spread out and not as thick. Just get all this good stuff in here. I promise you my hands are clean. I'm a dentist. I wash them 100 times a day, especially before I start cooking. All right. So I got this all down in there. And make sure we scrape the sides here. That's why I love these spatulas. Won't leave any goodness behind. All right, into the oven it goes. Set the timer for 20 minutes. We'll be back. Okay, so here is our casserole out of the oven. It's been in for 30 minutes, 350 convection. If you used a bigger pan where it was smaller, 350 in a regular oven for 20 to 30 minutes would about do it. I wanted it to be brown and bubbly, and that's what we got here. This is 3 servings. So here I go with my horrible division skills. Got a nice Y into it. That's usually what I do. All right, plate here. Spin some of this up. Let's see the finished product. Here's our finished product. 1/3 of this is a lean green. And that's about that. I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit of green onion on top for color. And there you have it. I hope this satisfies Sarah, that recipe craving for loaded baked potatoes you were having. Thank you all for watching.